So as Jeff alluded to, spaceflight analogs are operational environments that we specifically design for the purpose of doing research. We run missions, full spaceflight-like missions in these types of facilities, and we study human health outcomes relevant for spaceflight that just isn't flight for various different reasons. And I'll talk mostly about one type of analog that we have at the NASA Johnson Space Center here in Houston called the HERA, or the Human Exploration Research Analog. We love acronyms at NASA, so I'm going to try my very, very hardest to not give you alphabet soup during this talk. So all of those hazards we try to replicate in our flight analogs. Analogs are any kind of environment that has a similar type of effect on the human systems to those that we would expect to see in space. The analogs that we do don't necessarily replicate all 5 of those things all at once, because it's very hard to replicate zero gravity on Earth, right? For obvious ethical reasons, we can't irradiate people, unless there's a clinical implication for that, like cancer treatment or something. But we can study effects of isolation, we can study effects of communication delays, we can study effects of closed system environments or limited food system environments, things like that, through these analog processes. So the big one that is my baby is the Human Exploration Research Analog, or we call it HERA. That's, I think, the only acronym I'm going to use in this talk. HERA is a roughly the size of a kind of maybe a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment, maybe not a New York City apartment. It's 2 stories, so it's a cylinder main habitat area, and then 2 modules on either side. We have an airlock module on this side and a hygiene module on this side. Hygiene module has a single stall shower, a sink, and a toilet. I'll kind of run through what each level has, but this is our mission control center. It's much smaller than a normal mission control center. Our real MCC looks a lot bigger than this. You've probably seen pictures of it. Ours is a scaled down version of it, but we do have MCC to help replicate that aspect of flight. So this is the first floor, kind of bird's eye view looking down at the first floor of it. There's 4 main stations on the first floor. The core here, as you can kind of see in this picture, is a ladder that's has kind of a cage around it for safety. It also has an elevator that goes up and down. So if you're carrying heavier things or you have more, 2 people that need to go up and down at the same time, you can use the elevator function of it. Each of these stations this is mostly kind of a work area. So these are different kinds of operational stations. So this is a medical station or biomedical research station. So there's a med kit in here. There's different biological experiments that we do at this desk. Kind of a multi-use facility. Next to it over here is a glove box where we do a lot of experiments with rock samples and things where you'd have to be isolated from the sample that you're taking. Then we have an ops center. So this is the flight deck of the ops center where we do a virtual EVA. So we don't have folks actually leave the habitat. They do it in a virtual reality environment, kind of like an Oculus goggles type thing. We have 2 crew members in the airlock that are on the surface, so they go through a whole procedure just like any other crew members would on ISS to decompress the airlock, to prepare their suits, do a virtual suit check, those types of things to prepare for a surface EVA or extravehicular activity. Sorry, I lied to you. I used an acronym. The other 2 crew members are sitting at the flight deck here, and they're operating a robotic rover that works along with these other 2 crew members on the surface. So we have two members in the habitat, and then 2 members doing a surface operation. The other work centers here, one is a robotics task. So this is a simulator that runs a kind of a robotic arm called the Canada arm that is used for grappling various different things. You can kind of move things from one part of the station to another with it. You can also grapple cargo vehicles to bring them in safely. Various different operations. This is an operational task simulator. And then the blue area here is kind of a multi-purpose workstation where you can do lots of repair tasks, lots of group activities. The desk folds up if you need more space for the floor, things like that. Then the second level is more of a living, kind of multi-purpose space. So we have a wardroom table that serves everything from your kind of work desk area to your kitchen counter to your meal times at this table. The galley over here is very small. It's equipped with a food warmer, kind of a microwave type system, a water system, but that's it. So there's no oven, there's no cooking, there's no sternos, nothing like that. The water that you have here is for rehydrating some foods. So we have lots of foods packed in these crates that are kind of all over the habitat. They have all of their food that they need in this one habitat without getting a resupply. And then above this center are kind of these lofted bunk areas that you access through ladders here. This is what one looks like from the inside. It's roughly the size of a twin bed mattresses. This is open though, so that there's limited privacy, just like there would be on a real space vehicle, that you can see each other. You maybe have a curtain or something like that, but other than that, it's not a private crew quarters, because that's kind of what we would expect in a typical space vehicle. There is opportunity for exercise, but it's very, very limited. It's an exercise bike and then a small weight bench on this side for some hand weights. So what do we do in this facility? Is we run space missions. A friend of mine once put it that if anyone has ever played Dungeons and Dragons before, that you get to be the dungeon master, you get to make up your own space mission, figure out what's going to happen, throw challenges at the crew, all these kinds of things. We try to make it as flight-like and as realistic as possible. So we use a real flight-like timeline. We limit their access to, internet, TV, phone, things like that. You can't bring your iPad with you. You can't bring your cell phone with you. Creature comforts like that are not allowed. We use surveillance and video and audio system for some of the research. We also use flight-like operational tasks. We give them everything from public affairs interviews that they have to do, like media interviews, to all those simulated EVAs, housekeeping activities, anything you would really have to do in a real research or in a facility, a spaceflight vehicle. We standardize the conditions as much as possible so that, and this is why it's more of a research analog than real life. We have some level of standardization to experimentally control certain variables. So we can control certain things in the cabin, like the light dark cycle of the lighting in the system. We provide certain exercise requirements or exercise prescriptions for the crew to try to adhere to. We do provide them 3 meals a day. It's shelf-stable packaged food. It's not quite the freeze-dried food like the astronaut ice cream that you might buy, at the gift shop or something like that. It's not like that. It's a little bit more like camping food, if folks have eaten that before. We do a dietary assessment to make sure that we're meeting basic nutritional needs for the crew. And like I said, they have hot water, but no cooking or baking facilities. This is an example of kind of what a timeline looks like. They're timelined down to the minute, just like they are in spaceflight. Every minute counts. Right now we run crews roughly 4 times a year. We have 4 people per mission. Occasionally we assign backups to the crews as kind of, something comes up in the pre-flight period where illness happens, family emergencies, things like that. We can have someone step in as a backup crew member to keep the mission on the same timeline. Our goal is to try to get a 50-50 ratio between male and female crew members within a campaign. So 1 campaign equals 4 missions. So 1 mission is 45 days. We run roughly 4 missions per year, and that makes it a campaign. That gets us a sample size of 16 people per year, which is a lot more throughput than we can get on the station. We try to keep our subjects, the subjects that we select for these crews as astronaut-like as possible, both in terms of age range, as well as their backgrounds, kind of advanced STEM degrees, professional skills, their reasons for wanting to do this, their motivations for wanting to do this are pretty flight-like. They also go through medical and psychological screening, just like astronauts would. So what do we use HERA for is kind of the big question, right? We run these fake missions, we kind of simulate a mission, but what is the science going into it? The resilient science that we're looking at is largely related to behavioral health type issues, specifically individual behavioral health and performance, but as well as team interaction, performance, cohesion, cultural factors, especially now that we're working more and more with international crew members. We're very interested in kind of cultural factors and how that plays out. Sleep and circadian issues, because we have that controlled environment with the lighting, as well as various different types of human systems tests. So the habitat, the way the habitat interacts with the people using it is of critical value to NASA. That if we design the habitat correctly, design the systems correctly, the habitat can run more autonomously, that we don't need MCC support like we have in the past. So if we start integrating some of these new technologies to help the crews become more autonomous or less need less support from the ground, that helps us accomplish our future missions. We also do some mission enabling capabilities or validations. So new food systems, when new foods are developed, new scheduling tools are developed, different procedures or concepts of operation. Some of our operational teams at NASA can help implement some of those as kind of, testing it out before we fly it. Telemedicine operations is a great one that, in a comm delay scenario, so we delay communications up to 5 minutes in our HERA habitat. So you can't have a teledoc visit, in every 5 minutes you get a response. That doesn't necessarily work. So we have to look at how we do telemedicine in a more delayed scenario like that. So we have opportunities to test new capabilities before we have to actually use them.